What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley. You can find me on Twitter at ArtisticGamer28, and that is Scott Savage. You can find him at Savage over on Twitter. Scott, what is happening today?
Now accepting all forms of video game challenge on my Twitter, by the way. But I'm excited to get into another episode. We're almost at the weekend already.
Yeah, I know, man. My whole week's been messed up, as you kind of saw from the ending yesterday. I thought today was already Friday for some reason. It's just been, what a messed up week. A little PSA before we get started, though. Go check out my Returnal review. It is live over on YouTube, as well as InsideTheGame.ca. And don't forget, we will also be coming back later today at 5 o'clock to cover the PlayStation State of Play. So join us live at 5 o'clock. We'll talk about everything PlayStation and what they showcase over the next 20 minutes. When that goes live. Scott, we got another jam-packed show. The Last of Us movie was canceled, and we have the details. Titanfall 2 numbers are up, and game sales are booming. Dude, it just keeps rocking. You ready to go on this week's episode, or today's episode?
Oh, I'm ready.
Nice. Let's do it, because The Last of Us movie fell apart because it was too action-focused. Dude, I read this, and it was like, Good decision. The movie adaptation of The Last of Us fell apart because there was too much focus on big action set pieces that did not suit the story, according to game director Neil Druckmann. Talking to the Script Apart podcast, Druckmann said, "When I worked on the movie version, a lot of the thinking and notes were like, how do we make it bigger? How do we make the set pieces bigger?" Druckmann did not point fingers as to who the studio system provided those notes, but he said the approach was responsible for the film's downfall. It didn't work for The Last of Us, and I think that's ultimately why the movie wasn't made. Dude, The Last of Us is not an action game.
No, I'm just a pedestrian on this one, but it seems that it's very emotional, and there's a lot more depth to it than something from the wheelhouse of Michael Bay.
Yeah, it's a story heavy inspired game, right? It focuses around characters. The action is there to move the gameplay along, but it's not there as a centerpiece. And it sounds like here that they wanted to make that the centerpiece, which doesn't work because that's not what the game is about. It's the emotional connections you build with the characters, with Ellie and her story, why she's infected, how that came to be, and what the purpose of her getting to that hospital was all about. I would have been curious to see if they followed the movie directly with the game itself, or they did a bit of a spin-off. But dude, I was glad to read that they just decided to cancel it, because how many times, Scott, have we seen movies come over, dude, that just fail?
Yeah, one comes to mind, the Doom movie that I actually really enjoyed. If they had softened that up and made it a feely kind of thing, it would have not been the right flavor for the subject matter. So sure. In this case, I see they're making the right decision, I believe. And hopefully they get something out of that adds to the environment of The Last of Us.
No, for sure. As a video game, The Last of Us has plenty of combat due to the way its gameplay structure works. But the story aspect of the game, what is essentially the base of any film or TV adaptation, is more subdued than a Hollywood blockbuster. Thankfully, Druckmann says that moving into the television series has helped capture the team's original intention for the game. Our approach for The Last of Us was, let's make it as an indie film, Druckmann revealed. Let's approach it as an indie film team, and it's shot that way. So smaller, more personable. Dude, I'm pretty pumped for the TV show. We're going to see how it goes. I'm not one for the creepies, though. But I played Last of Us Part 1 Last of Us 1 and Part 2 and loved them both dearly last year, with Last of Us Part 2 being my game of the year. But it's nice to see that I think the TV show could take an approach kind of like Game of Thrones, right? We can chop off the heads of those who need to be, and that kind of thing, and progress the story forward, and doesn't hold you back. So I think taking an indie approach, Scott, would be the better move.
Yeah, that gives you a lot more freedom to stick to the script, as it were.
No, for sure. Absolutely. Scott, let's move on, because Titanfall 2 player counts are up. Suddenly they're hitting huge numbers over on Steam. And why? Well, it kind of comes into two factors. Titanfall 2 is seeing a huge resurgence on Steam, with more active players than when the game launched on the platform. Dude, when it launched on the actual platform, player base has skyrocketed 650% in just 2 days, according to Steam DB. The average daily peak of active players over the last 30 days was 6,815 players. That's up from the whole 1940 daily users in March, which has gained an over 500%. Dude, why do you think this has gone up?
Oh, well, Apex has to have something to do with this, just because of their Titanfall slanted kind of updates.
Yep.
Maybe that's just kind of reminding people that, oh yeah, there's this giant universe that they've already created that Apex is just one piece of. But there's another factor to it that I'm surprised we're seeing this resurgence on Steam.
Yeah.
Purely because I know locally in my town, there's almost bargain bins full of Titanfall 1 and 2.
Yeah, I know.
In the dollar store, even.
Sure.
And so it's a very accessible game. But I'm sure Steam, the pricing on Steam must reflect something similar. In any case, though, I'm a huge Titanfall fan, and to see the people jump on Titanfall 2, even much later than the release, it still gives me hope because I want to see a Titanfall 3.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Will we get a Titanfall 3? Respawn stated back in 2019 that they're not working on another Titanfall game within the series. So I'm curious to see how that lies. Now, they're taking it because of Apex. They're bringing in that side of things, which I think is a cool aspect. And it really got me hyped, actually, to jump into Apex. Not thinking about Titanfall, but Apex itself, because that's where the game is coming, moving forward. I like the tie-in between the two games themselves. I think that helps motivate people to get back into the game as well. But the game has more players now than when it originally came to Steam. I'm choking, dude. 4 years after the game's original release, Titanfall 2's previous peak was 13,000 players on a single day on June 28th, 2020. So let's see how the numbers kind of play out. But I think it really does come down to the fact that everything's getting tied in with Apex, and that's the biggest move. And Apex is getting that new game mode too, buddy.
I just thought of that too. There's more of an action-packed kind of combat-oriented game mode coming around, and maybe that's kind of just inspiring people to go straight back to full combat in Titanfall. That would be that makes sense as a connection.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get on to some Monster Hunter problems, shall we? Monster Hunter Rise puts characters editing behind a paywall, and fans are not happy. Dude, Monster Hunter is all about customizing your character. It's the basis of the game.
Especially the armors and the weaponry.
Right?
For sure.
Nuts. Monster Hunter Rise latest update locks elements of character editing behind a paywall for the second time in series history, and many fans aren't happy about it. The 2.0 title update for Monster Hunter Rise, which is now available, adds new monsters, layered armor, and more. But players noticed one returning feature they were far less happy to see: character editing vouchers. Oh man. This was introduced in Monster Hunter World. Now allow you to almost fully customize your characters again after starting the game, but at a cost. Dude, oh man. After the first free voucher, each new item will cost you $2.99 US. Why would they do this, Scott?
Oh, yeah, that doesn't seem like a very consumer-friendly or consumer-centric kind of idea.
No.
And it's just putting a little bit of a hurdle in there. And $2.99 USD may seem small, and it's easy for them to say, whatever, it's just a small cost.
Sure.
But that adds up over time, and I'm sure they're ready to reap the benefits of that.
No, absolutely. But dude, it's $3 to change your outfit. Like, why would you want to? That doesn't make any sense. Monster Hunter World is all about going out, getting resources, and building up your character, getting new armor, customizing your character. World was the same, right? And there you saw that World brought it there too. Like, why would you do that? So they went from World doing that, got, I'm sure, negative feedback on that. brought it over at Monster Hunter Rise, which is a Nintendo exclusive. So your Nintendo fan base now, you've just ticked them off because you want to gain some money out of them to try and customize your character. That's a feature that's already in the game, and now you're trying to capitalize on it. Dude, that does not go over very well.
No, that sits strangely with me. I'm not sure what their thinking really was on that.
No, I don't understand it at all either. Let's get into the US game sales are up 30% during the Q1 of 2021. US quarterly report consumer spending on gaming reached, you ready for this, Scott? $14.92 billion from January to March 2021, according to the MPD Group reports. Games consumer spending during the quarter 2021 increased 30% year over year in the US to reach $14.92 billion, according to the latest report. That is crazy, man. The growth was experienced across all gaming categories from January to March, with hardware in particularly rising a high 81% year over year. We've seen the new hardware, well, obviously because of the new consoles, and the Switch, dude, still continues to sell.
Yeah, that is some sort of beast in the market that the Switch still keeps up. But
yeah,
this makes sense to me because of the global situation we're all in. We're hitting another year of pandemic closures, and people are really gearing up, I suppose, to kind of have a better take on this year than they did last.
Sure. No, absolutely. The growth was experienced across all gaming categories, with the hardware in particular, as I said, 81% year over year, but the content spending was up 25% to $12.8 billion, while accessories saw a 42% boost as well. The report highlighted some best-selling titles during the quarter, including Among Us, Animal Crossing, New Horizons, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and Super Mario 3D World. Dude, those are top titles right there, without a doubt. Animal Crossing, Among Us, Call of Duty, some of the biggest staples this year, or of last kind of thing, wrapping up just before. It was a pandemic savior, I think, with Animal Crossing.
Yes, that title specifically, that gives you a happy place to fall back to.
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. The growth driven by these new platforms combined with gains experienced in mobile, PC, and VR content spending, as well as the continued strength of the Nintendo Switch, have pushed markets to new heights. Dude, video games have just actually grown over the course of the pandemic. It's everybody's sitting at home, like you touched on, right? And the fact that, what are we looking to do? Well, my kid games, so I'll get into gaming. We're already gaming. We're gaming more now than ever before.
And while Q1 for me, sitting at home and doing push-ups was somewhat beneficial, but not nearly as fun as Q1 this year has been so far.
Yeah, no, everybody's right now has been kind of somewhat capitalizing on video games, allowing us to just kind of escape what's going on and sit and chill out with friends, family, or whatever, meet them online, right? Because we're all stuck. Right now, we're still in lockdown, dude. We can't go out anywhere. So what do? We meet up online every night instead. That's what we're doing.
I bet these numbers reflect the growth of video game industry, but I just had a comparison of such. The video game industry must dwarf the movie industry, especially this year.
Absolutely. Well, you figure all theaters been shut down as well. They're not making anything right now because no one can go to the theaters. They're now trying to look at other avenues, how they can push the movies out to the market for people to view them. You can watch them online. You can watch them on, like for us, it's Galaxy. So if you go to galaxytheaters.com, I guess it is, you can then watch the movie that way. Like they're trying to figure out what else to do now, because people have just turned right from one media into the other and just gone straight to gaming now because there's nothing there coming to theaters. Everybody's been put on hold.
Now, fortunately, the theaters have been charging us $50 a movie for the past 10 years. So
oh, man.
They will likely be able to outlast the storm here, but they're no doubt losing a lot.
Absolutely. And here's something to notice as well. Continuing on with a little bit of a side story here, Scott. The GDC survey, 44% of developers have had their game delayed by COVID-19. 2021 State of the Industry survey finds 67% of the developers say their own performance has been maintained or improved while working from home. Personally, we all work from home. Dude, I love working from home.
It has sped up certain aspects of our production, that's for sure.
Yes, it certainly has. Yeah. As the pandemic drags into a second year, it appears to be having a more pronounced impact on release schedules. That is no surprise to us whatsoever. The Game Developer Conference today released its annual State of the Industry survey today, showing an uptick in the number of respondents who had seen their project delayed as a result of the pandemic. Of the more than 3,000 developers who answered the survey, 44% responded that the current game had been delayed due to COVID-19. 49% said their game hadn't been delayed, and the remaining 7 didn't have a game project at the time of the survey. In the last year's survey, 33% responded said the game had been delayed. The 2020 poll was conducted in June. Just kind of keep that in mind, right? So the answers would have reflected delays in roughly the first 3 months of the pandemic. Despite the delays, many developers are actually finding themselves more effective when working from home. When asked how remote work has impacted them, 35% said it greatly or somewhat increased their creativity or productivity. 32% of them hadn't seen much change, and the other one said it just didn't really affect them whatsoever. Dude, that's why I said working from home. And here's the last stat I want to talk on too as well. A handful of other questions that saw notable shifts from last year was 38% of survey respondents said that they have or have been involved in an AR or VR development, down from the 46% in last year's poll. Kind of makes me question what's going on there with VR a little bit to see that drop. Almost 10% of developers, dude. We're seeing a shift now. Everybody's more focused on the actual games. Everybody now working from home. Happier, Scott? I think so.
Oh, I'm looking forward to VR content myself, but
Yep.
this is in tandem with new hardware console releases, so it does make sense that the priority would be back on the traditional hardware.
No, that makes a lot of sense, Scott. That's a very good point, actually. To think of when people launch new consoles, people want games. We want games to play on these consoles, so why not focus on those where you can get an easier chance of getting a sale to happen than where someone on like VR, where it's it's limited quantity right now in households for VR. Yes, it is still limited in the world of Xbox and PlayStation's next generation consoles, but at the same time, VR is if you don't have a VR, I think it's something you need to experience for yourself and figure out if that's one that you want to experience. Scott and I, or you and I, are big fans of VR. It's a world that just opened up the world of gaming, and it's just a whole different aspect.
And all you need is one friend with VR to show you that. Just let you step into the world of VR. Just try it out for yourself, and that's generally enough to hook you. You will know if it's for you or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. But yeah, I thought it was interesting, almost down 10%, and everybody's a lot happier almost from working from home. No surprise there, right? I feel more relaxed when you're working at home instead of in some kind of office.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on to some Google Stadia news. Here's some updates for you. We're getting they've detailed the Google Stadia has added a search bar now to the web. It's rolling out to all players this week. There will also be new updated UI along with a better library sorting that will let players keep track of their purchases, free games, and pro games as well. The Stadia team has also shared work in progress photos. We have a couple of those as well to show you. Very cool to see Stadia is still going. And lastly, you'll soon be able to access Stadia directly through an Android web browser rather than opening your Stadia app separately. So you'll also be able to delete captures in bulk. Dude, I got a couple captures on my phone right now, and they're just kind of lingering there. And it is a bit of a nuisance. So it's nice to see this kind of coming over. When's the last time you touched your Stadia, Scott?
Oh, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now. Jumping into Assassin's Creed, just
nice.
That is the way I have it through the Stadia, and I enjoy it. I'm glad to see them clean it up a little bit and add to the UI and just do these kind of maintenance updates. That's a good sign to me.
No, for sure. No, it's nice to see that they're still going. Obviously, we all have our concerns about the whole shutdown of the first party division, but we'll see how the future lines up for Stadia. They're pushing more to what we kind of think now as Steam. You know what I mean?
Yeah, more of a venue to grab things than a production house inside.
Absolutely. Let's go down to some other news. The Neo 2 shipments and digital sales have exceeded 2 million units. Worldwide sales of Neo 2 and Neo 2 Complete Edition have exceeded 2 million. Meanwhile, sales of Neo and Neo Complete Edition have exceeded 3 million sold. This means the sales of the Neo series as a whole has now exceeded 5 million in cumulative sales. Dude, that's good to see. Neo is not my game. That game is hard.
I was gonna ask, do you still get flashbacks from that game?
The game gives me nightmares, man. That game was so hard. We tried to review too, and I couldn't get anywhere to even play that game to review it. I gave up. It was weird to do that. We never do that, but it was a heartbreak. I couldn't play the game. What am I supposed to do?
I have a friend. We know him as Boiled Odin. He recently has picked up Neo 2. Him and his wife, and they both play it together. And it seems like they're having an easier time than you do. Actually.
yeah, not my style. But let's get on to some game announcements. The GTFO is a hardcore 4-player cooperative first-person shooter with a focus on team play and atmosphere. Gameplay is tense, scary, and highly tactical. They got a new update over on Steam. You can check that out. That one's happening. Scott, you can check that game out at all?
This sounds interesting, especially if I can get some co-op teammates in. I'm really craving a co-op experience right now. This might be it.
Nice. That's good, because I believe you and Nate will have that one for next week. All right. The Sinking City comes to Xbox Series X and S, but not with a free upgrade from the Xbox One. Frogwares have released the Xbox Series X and S enhanced version of The Sinking City. It features multiple enhancements and improvements that utilize the console's power and functionalities. Frogware has confirmed the following improvements and features of the Xbox Series X: 4K, 60 frames per second, graphical fidelity, loading times, all that kind of stuff. But take note, you cannot get it for free if you already own it on last-gen console for the Xbox. Something to do with the different IDs, which is unfortunate to see, buddy.
Yeah, there is a kind of a trend of having free upgrades that we're getting a little used to, but in this case, there is a legal situation where Frogware just cannot produce the exact same game. It's a little too legal for me to understand, but
yeah. Well,
regardless, will be a new version of the game.
It's got different publishers and stuff involved, so yeah, it's a little bit technical. That's just going to complicate things, so they're not able to do it. They produced a whole new game, so you have to buy it. If you're a big fan of it, if you haven't completed it, you can now get it on next-gen consoles. Let's move into the PlayStation Plus games of May. For this coming month, we can check out Wreckfest, and it's also getting the PS5 version, as well as the update as well. That's coming out soon. As well as you'll be getting Battlefield 5 and, dude, Stranded Deep. It's a survival game. That game is cool. I checked it out a long time ago on PC. It's over on consoles now. We'll be getting that on the PlayStation 4 with Battlefield 5, as well as PlayStation 5 will be getting Wreckfest. We just played that on our stream there not too long ago, the group of us, and had an absolute blast.
Yeah, that was some fun.
That was chaos, dude. That was absolute chaos the entire time. But it was a ton of fun. Well, Scott, that'll wrap up today's ITG Daily. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. Don't forget, you can always join us live Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern over on twitch.tv/theofficialITG. But if you can't join us live, no worries. Hit us up later over on InsideTheGame.ca, YouTube, TV streaming services around the world, podcast services. And don't forget, we'll be back again today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time as we cover the state of play. Make sure you come back and we'll hang out with you again. Until tomorrow, everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. I'm Drew, that's Scott, and this is ITG Daily. We'll see you inside the game.